Concrete River and Chemist here today, folks. We are live. Welcome to MixLife 55.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Going good. How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Just thinking about how many more tests I need to do this week. I finally got in the Silverline stuff, and that apple snack smells really, really interesting. I think that one's probably going to be okay. The weirdest one for me so far is that meringue because it smells fruity. Like, I don't know what's going on there, but it definitely smells fruity.
Yeah, well, you already biased that you wouldn't like it no matter what.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, whipped marshmallow was garbage, but I decided to try this one out. And yeah, it smells really fruity. I don't know if they do this on the regular Capella bottles either. I don't, oh, yeah, they do. So on the Silverline bottles, you can actually read it because the Silverline labels are all white and shit, but they have a non flavor ingredient panel, thing on there. So the non flavor ingredients in the meringue is propylene glycol and sucralose. So they're already adding sucralose to it.
Yeah, maybe that's why the Silverline are tasty because they're all sucralose.
Well, it's funny because on the other ones, it doesn't. They don't have sucralose in them. It doesn't have in the non-flavor ingredients, and that meringue tastes more like what everybody tries to use flavor art meringue for. Like it has like a Fruit Loops kind of flavor to it, as opposed to just being like a normal ass meringue. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, apparently there was like a reformulation of the meringue where it was less, I think it was like sweet and fluffy before when everyone was, before even Wayne and them were talking about it back like Head in Clouds time. And I found something that Head in Clouds had written where they were like, I can't recommend this flavor anymore because it's not the same. So I think it either got more eggy and less like a cream sweetener at some point. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird. Meringue is such a weird flavor, but yeah, this tastes nothing like flavor arts meringue. So should be fun.
So you think the apple snacks is a good bet?
I haven't even tried to vape it yet. I haven't mixed up the testers for it, but it smells like it has plenty of AP in it. Like it definitely has like that kind of Fritos kind of corn chip note going on underneath everything else. So it's definitely going to have some texture.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Just because the fruit cereal is really good.
Yeah, fingers crossed, right? I suppose I probably should have mixed some up already, but you know what? That seems way too reliable for me to have done my work ahead of time.
Any other flavors you've been digging lately?
I've been busting through vape train stuff. I still have a bunch of vape train stuff that I'm trying to go through. Their chocolate mousse is pretty good. It's
Yeah, I've heard that a couple times.
it's not bad. It's a little plasticky for me at higher percentages, but it seems to be working pretty well. Right now, I'm messing around with like their shisha melon and their citruses, some of their citruses and stuff, and their that honey pomelo flavor is like a really accurate pomelo. So if you need a pomelo in your life, Vape Trans Honey Pomelo has you covered. Seems to be holding up decently with a steep too, which is nice.
So describe a pomelo. It's like a grapefruit kind of.
It's like a sweet white grapefruit nestled in a bowling ball full of pith. Pith. Like I like pomelos, but I'll never buy them because they price all the fruit by the pound, and like pomelos like this freaking big, and it's all just like fluffy white nonsense until you get down to the fruit. But yeah, it's like a sweet white grapefruit flavor with maybe a little bit of lime in there.
Yeah,
Really, really good citrus fruit.
I saw sour sop. They had sour sop at Whole Foods, and it was $10 a pound. And these things are like a good 4 pounds at least. It was like 40. You just for like $40 on a fruit.
Yeah, I don't got that kind of fruit money.
My fruit budget is not that high at the moment.
It's substantially lower than that. I have a very specific fruit budget, and pomelos and soursop are just going to blow the entire thing. But
You open a check in the mail, you're like, honey, this is pomelo money.
we eating pomelo tonight, baby.
Oh man. Has anyone in the chat tried the apple snacks? I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. That one looks good. Yeah, I got this smoke Rolo, hide that shit in your hand thing because I wanted to test the mouth to lung devices. And then I haven't put the damn thing down because, most of the time when I'm vaping, it's either like doing kid pickup in the car or I'm getting weird looks from parents for vaping a big mod or, so it's been very convenient. Battery charge is probably the biggest drawback because you only get like 2 hours, 3 hours on it, but then you get a half-hour charge. Is $24.
What kind of juice are you running in there?
I have done a 25 milligram apple mix that I made. 25 milligram Nick, and then I think I ended up at like 60-40 maybe, and it's good. So you get, because I see them selling like a 50 milligram vape, but I coming from like a 6 milligram freebase, wasn't trying to go all the way up, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Blow my head off. So I went 25 milligram, and it's good. It's working. I've had like the benefit to doing this is you can like sit on a bottle for like a week, where instead of going through like 30 mils, you're just filling this thing up and you're taking way less drag. So I definitely get the appeal. The Juuls are showing up in every 7-Eleven in my area, and they haven't been there. And like in the last month, every 7-Eleven I've walked into has got like a Juul sticker, and they're selling those. So I'm pretty sure that's where all the anti-Juuls coming from, is that cigarette space is getting taken up from the guys. So you have an outside vendor coming into the convenience stores. So the flavor, yeah, you have to really like mix in a weird way. Like you have to over flavor basically. You have to dumb flavor. So you kind of like you can build out like a single strong flavor, but you're not going to get very far trying to layer flavors. So you got to use really bold flavors like a mango or pineapple. But I could definitely see like a strawberry getting totally trashed trying to vape through this.
Yeah, like you might have to use like a ridiculous strawberry, like Flavora's Alpine strawberry or Innoware's Wild strawberry to get a clear strawberry. That kind of like fresher strawberry taste. There's no way you're going to get that through a pod.
Like Alpine at a 5% maybe.
Oh, I mean, like maybe 2%. 5% still might be pretty gross in a pod.
Rich cinnamon at a 10. Don't do that.
Hey, I was just happy I could use Flavora Clove at 1%. Like that was like one of the first things I tried when I got my pod system. I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to use Flavora Clove because I love Flavora Clove, but I can't taste shit after I vape it. So we'll see if it works better in a pod. So,
and what'd you use it at?
Just 1%.
And that's enough. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's still enough. Like it's still a lot of clove. I love Flavora's clove, but there is no reason that should have ever been sold in a plastic bottle, and you will never need 15 milliliters of it.
Yeah, like this is this is double apple, 2 apples, and I back noted with the Flavora peppermint, and like the peppermint was there for a little bit, but then it kind of just got like a culotta peppermint. So And I think that was it. That was going light though, you know, because it's the first pod system I've actually tested on. But the apple survived the way I used it. And final flavor percentage was like 25, 26, something like that. So yeah, like Graham said, you have to mix like you've only been mixing a month. So like typical over flavoring mistakes, like 28% is actually going to be a good Nick salt recipe. So it's wide open market. I mean, there's like 10 flavors that are official pod system flavors for Juuls, and then even the Nick salt market it's not as like they're just throwing up the basic shit that they can make taste okay. That's why you get a lot of these single flavor Nick salts.
Yeah, keeping up with some of like the new Nick Salt release juices, nothing looks all that interesting. It's the same like 4 fruits plus cooling. So that's kind of what I want to do is I kind of want to dig into, it's on my big list of shit to get done, which I'll probably never get done, but I kind of want to dig into what exactly you can do using such a tiny coil. Like how do you hack texture into that? How do you hack layering into that? Because I'm not sure it could be done. I just want to like frustrate myself trying to do it.
Yeah, you could probably go back and make all those recipes on ELR that rank high, and that shit probably tastes great.
Well, it's not that different from like an old school cartomizer. You know, like you're talking about the same kind of airflow in general. You're talking about the same kind of wattage in general. So.
Yeah, but I think it's so if you're trying to use the Nick salt just as like subbing out the same kind of milligram, I did not get much benefit from that. So if you're doing Nick salt at say 6 to 20 milligram, you're not really getting the benefit, and it's not even really. I would say it's not as good of an experience on like a dripper. I tended to, unless you're like a nicotine addict, if you have a flexible nicotine range, like you can go down to 1.5 up to like 10, like you're really not hanging on to nicotine as much, then I'd say, you know, doing the free-base nicotine at like 1.5, 3, or 6, it doesn't really benefit you to getting up in like the 20s, 30s, 40s. And then you start to get the effect of such a quick result of the nicotine that you dial back your usage, right? But then, you know, on like a 30 mil, you're almost pouring like a third of the bottle is this nicotine, right? So you're having to then compensate this, you know, nicotine. Good nicotine won't really have a flavor, but it'll also affect flavors, right? And shitty nicotine will have that pepper note, but if you have a decent nicotine, it's not going to affect flavor, but it's going to like get in the way of your flavor, or you're gonna have to like build against it. So that's why you get into this 25%, is because now you're trying to like offset the dominant nicotine salt. And I don't know, like, what do you think? Does it have a flavor to you? Does it?
Yeah, I mean, Nicosalts. There we go. I'm just abbreviating things. I'm trying to think about 8 things at once. Nicotine salts at lower like sub-ohm percentages to me just taste kind of like dry and a little harsh. But they do work at those higher percentages. But as soon as you get up to those higher percentages, especially if you're using like a nicotine salt that already has like an acid in the formulation, like new nicotines, that actually becomes like part of the flavor profile, and so you have to try to like work around the fact that it's just going to taste like a shit ton of nicotine. So I was gonna say, we had a question from the chat from the Vaping saying, Concrete, help me out if you could. Smell the bottle cap butter. I get a spot on butterscotch. Everybody tells me it's popcorn butter smell. Is your nose just that far off? I'm gonna go no. Actually, it does smell quite a bit of butter, quite a bit like butterscotch. I think there's like some kind of like more movie theater butter thing in there, but yeah, there's a good deal of butterscotch in there. When I vape it, I mostly just get wax, so it doesn't taste like butterscotch to me, but it smells like butterscotch.
Yeah, would you say like you probably in any of these flavors, they don't have an endless supply of molecules. So if you want to do kind of like a little learning lesson, if you look at the MDS data sheets, they call them spec sheets on the Flavor Apprentice. You can take a flavor that you know, like vanilla swirl or any TPA flavor, and look at what they're using to get to that ingredient. And then if you start to like look at multiple flavors that you like, you'll see almost why you like them. Like, oh, I like this hypoxycarbo whatever type of flavor that's in here that creates this caramel type dairy. Now Capella doesn't reveal those, and the only brand that really goes into like these are our ingredients is Flavor Apprentice. So you can look at the percentages, and they do like a greater than or less than percentage, and you can kind of see, okay, so there's somewhere between 0 and 10 of ethyl maltol in this, right? And then you go over and you look at the other flavors, and you'll find it in places you didn't think, and you see what makes the flavor turn out to be what you use, right? And there's a very good chance that maybe if you could see Flavor West butterscotch and you could see Capella butter, they're probably using these same pieces to make the final flavor. So you'll get those, like you'll get those same notes. I used to like stack my creams a lot, like, and I still do, but there's some that I stopped adding because when I get into the ingredients, I'd see that I was almost double layering and wasn't getting a lot of difference between the two. So like Bavarian cream and I don't think it's maybe vanilla swirl might have been that, where I looked at the two of those and I was like, wow, this is pretty much same 90% of this flavor, or I can not add that. So it helps you in your mixing of like getting a step deeper, and then knowing that there's things that are overlapping. It'll help you when you're like picking ingredients and knowing like, oh, I might not need to overlap, this flavor. So it helps in your learning for trying to understand it all.
So I realized we'd been talking about it forever and I could just mix them up. I did mix up some of the apple snacks. I'm not digging it right off a shake. I think it's going to need a little bit. The apple seems a little too fresh and there's something kind of musty about the base to it, but it could just be the fact that A, I didn't really do a percentage right, and B, it probably needs to steep for a while. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I'll see how that one steeps out.
What about what does Flavor West offer? Like they have an Apple Jacks, right?
Yeah, they have an Apple Jacks, but I've never tried the damn thing, so I can't really compare.
Yeah, I've been using Flavor West more just to make like shitty juice on purpose. So like, if you just want to go back to like vape shop style, just real, low thought stuff, it's fun sometimes,
So we do have the usual source at Flavora, shout out Bryson, saying that, yeah, Alpine Strawberry's taken off with some of the pod systems. Apparently they're selling some more of it. So people are on to that.
See, there you go. It's up to Bryson. Flavora, we appreciate Flavora. They've laced up the team with some good flavors. And Seduced, shout out to Seduced, our one foreign member representing Belgium. And he just got some Flavora coming. So that's good for him because we have an international audience, and sometimes you guys that are watching have to really work hard to pick up some of the shit that we mentioned. So we always try to like steer you in the right direction, and because you know, there's a guy in Egypt watching. He's gonna have to like wait 6 months to get this flavor. He hears about stuff like that. There's people in Pakistan, there's New Zealand, Australia's opening up. Oh yeah, let me chill for Mixer Collection. We have a trade show booth in CVE Edmonton, which is one of the bigger shows, CVE in Canada. They do it proper, so it's a nice big vape show. And Mixer Collection has a whole booth there with the banners and all that shit. So it's very cool for us because, you know, it's kind of like watching your recipe grow into the other side. You know, so you start with this recipe just like our DIY stuff, and then you get to watch it like cross over into the vape shop world, and now it's like some regular vapor can walk into the expo and you know, vape the flavors. So it's kind of a cool cycle. It's started February last year, so that's how long if you're trying to like release vape shop juice. You know, it took us about a year to get traction and be, you know, right now it's in Mexico, it's in Australia, and it's in Canada and a bunch of shops. So that's cool. It's really cool to watch it grow. And there are times when you be like, I don't know if this thing's going to do anything, you know, because it takes all this time. Where there's even like rounds of people vaping, testers and stuff like that. Before we released anything, we got this like whole grade sheet back, like we were in school, from like opinions of people, you know, or we got to see what people thought of our mixes, which is, you don't always get that when you're like a DIY mixer. Like Mixers Club helps with that. But besides that, if somebody else isn't like volunteering to vape your juice, you could be just like going off your own stuff, you know, your own I don't know. I'm not sure, Pippa, who the distributor is for Australia. We might just be in a couple shops. I'm not sure. I'll get back to you on that one. But it's been a cool ride to see it go all the way to like Mexico, or the Mexico one got me because it was all Spanish. Like, so I got to see my recipe card, and I was like, "Oh, that says chemist," and I'm like, what's with this card? It's all different. And then a second later, you're like, oh, it's Spanish. And you're like, oh, wow, that's my recipe descriptions in Spanish for Mexico. So that was kind of cool. Just like, you don't realize how worldwide mixing is, you know, unless you're looking at analytics, but even analytics don't really feel, you know, the global feeling, you know, so it's fun to see people making your stuff around the world. And, you know, like the idea that you could go to England and like go to a vape show and they'd be like, oh, you're a chemist from e-juice makers, and like they'd know you. You know, we don't travel and do that. So it's interesting to watch all that grow. Like when Wayne goes to like South Africa and he's got people taking selfies with him and stuff, like that's got to be a very surreal experience, you know, to go from just like webcam with yourself and then to like all of a sudden you're in Africa getting shout outs and stuff. But wild. Concrete River, big in Pakistan.
Apparently I'm big in Japan. I don't know. I've heard that.
You're gonna go there, there'll be like you've been like stolen for billboards and shit. And there'll just be photos of you as like the characters of various Japanese candy and shit.
Dude, I would so be on that. Like hit me up, Suntory. Like I want to do some ads or something. So I have the Vape Train vodka. It does seem to have some citrus. It tastes a lot to me like cheaper vodka, where you get that kind of like lemony, almost vanilla note to it. It's surprisingly, I still need to do my single flavor testing on it. I have it mixed up, but I have put in a couple mixes and it holds up surprisingly well in mixes. You do definitely kind of get like a vodka bite, but it is definitely a cheap vodka bite.
You should mix it with some Flavor Monks gin, some of your reserves. Make like a real cocktail.
Yeah, that's the dream, right? No, I've been screwing around with those vape train boozes. I know that I've been talking about it like a whole lot, but no, like literally, I've made some mixes that were too boozy for me, which is a really, really strange place to be in with vaping. So I'm happy with that.
Speaking of boozy mixes, let's talk about that recipe you dropped.
Oh, yeah. So I just went back and sort of, we had talked earlier about kind of revising old recipes and keeping like stuff sort of tighter and like a profile of like, this is what I do as a mixer. This is like kind of my introduction, my calling card or whatever, and sort of doing some quality control there. And so I've been kicking around revising an older recipe that I liked the profile on, but I really wanted to like make it A, easier to mix, and B, make it a little bit brighter and punchier. And so, yeah, it's the same profile as Beat the Champ was, which was named before I was the champ of anything. I want to point that out. That was me just like normal naming, not hubris. But yeah, no, I put that out on Freshest Show. They were talking about revisiting old mixes, and I had been kicking that one around forever. It had already been ran through Mixers Club, and I made some changes and just kind of dropped it. I hadn't dropped the recipe in a while, but the other important part of that is I actually went back and like made Beat the Champ unpublic, and it's not going to be public from now on. So I think I'm going to do some cleanup on some of my older recipes I'm not 100% happy with, and because it's stuff that I like the profile, but I feel like I can do better, and I just kind of want to like keep it trimmed up to like a portfolio of mixes as opposed to just like here's something that popped in my head.
Yeah, so that's the thing with the cream base. Graham had asked about it, and it had been. I had got feedback from customers for chefs, so I asked them. I said, "What's wrong with any of our one shots? What do you like? What do you hate? Just like give it to us. If we're awful, tell us." And the only negative thing we got on any of them was somebody said they would get muting on the cream base. So then I went back into it and I was like, all right, well, let's find out which of these creams are maltol heavy, because they're probably, ethyl maltol is probably pulling down the flavor at some point. And, if you're steeping creams, it'll pull down and then it'll richen up over time. So people could be just testing it there, but I just took it as a thing to, go and improve. And then I killed the old recipe. So I re-released it as a new recipe because, now that I've made it better, I don't want people going back and making it the wrong way. And that's the downside of when you put up stuff on ELR, your oldest recipes trend the highest, right? So my very first funnel, like I did a funnel cake recipe, 2 years ago. That's up high. The cream base is up high. And then there's like 100 other recipes that I would argue are better. I would argue that my recipes tend to flow into a better range over time. So there's things in there that, never got the light of day that are all one-shot quality recipes. Like they could potentially, and I'll go back and grab them, especially for Christmas, right? Because stuff gets slept out for Christmas. And when we do a Christmas set with chefs, we've done two. The first one was part of like a Christmas hamper they did with all these different candies and ingredients and stuff. And then the second one we just did a line where we'll do like gingerbread tobacco or like gingerbread RY4. Copel did like a rum RY4 this last one. I'll do an eggnog and then like revised eggnog. So just very heavy Christmas theme. And we'll sell those as like a set. But, like eggnog doesn't do well most of the year. So I'll just pull the eggnog down, revise, release as a one shot. So there's stuff that's up there that could totally be a one shot in the future type of quality. And then I'll do that. If somebody comments on ELR and it pings me back to a recipe, I'll I'll like look at the recipe, and if the comment was a good idea, if the reaction is more negative than positive for something, I'll go right into it, edit it up right there. You know, so that it's kind of like quick and ruthless, but it at the end of the day has your portfolio, just like a graphic designer or video guy, whatever. Your portfolio looks better because you don't know how a new mixer is going to find you. They might just find you by like Google searching, and they come across your recipe from like 2 years ago that you could totally make better right now. So that's kind of the thinking behind it, is like keep everything the best that's public, because it's kind of your business card as a mixer, basically. But that's good that you killed the old one. Death to the old recipe.
Well, and it's because I've obviously run out of ideas, and I'm just repeating myself at this point. So, yeah, we're good.
Oh, shit, everything Apple sells was Steve Jobs' idea from like 1999, and they've just like rinsed and repeat. You know, it's still an iPod, an iPhone, and a fucking MacBook. You know, and it's just, you make it thinner, make it faster, add $1,000, sell it again. You know, so.
Yeah, and it's not so much that I'm out of ideas; it's that I have something out there that I'm not happy with. You know, like
right.
I don't see the issue with revisions, and
right. For people
like
be like,
if I'm still into the profile, that's cool, but I can do that profile better than the old version. I'm just gonna axe the old profile.
Right. And it'll get me motivated when they like comment. Like they'll be like, "Oh, I made 100 mils of this," and I'm like, "Oh shit! Well, let me fix it. You know, let me make it better."
So we did have a question whether the steep time depends on the volume of liquid. So it really shouldn't. Like I could see maybe some bizarro world where like you've got a really small volume of something and then there's more heat gets to it or something. I don't know, but like anytime over a couple of days, it really shouldn't have any kind of impact.
I think it's more likely. I hear it a lot. Like people will be like, "Oh, I made 300 mils and it's different than my 30 mils." I think it's more likely that you're losing your accuracy as you scale, right? So if you're trying to pull it off on a 1,000 milligram scale or whatever, and you're starting to like hit the limits of that. I remember I started on like a Ghetto Digi gas station scale. It would only do 100 grams or something like that. So it would overload, and I tear it down. I'd hit the tear button to bring it back to 0 and like keep going. But it's almost, I think there's just variation when you're doing that volume. The other thing I notice is that, you know, your bigger bottles of flavoring seem to have almost like more depth to them. I don't know why. I don't know if there's something lost in like the little bottle and the bigger bottle. But you have like a larger bottle of flavoring, you have, if you're making everything with like 4-ounce bottles instead of like 30 mils, I think you're going to see differences. Like, because I hear about it a lot where people are posted in the big DIY group or wherever, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm making 300 mils of this, and it doesn't taste like my 30 mil." You know, the drop isn't mega accurate. You know, you're not being super accurate with the drops, and then you have variation on the count, right? So if it'll say like 1.0, you know, if you don't have like a super scale, you're missing a little bit. Yes.
There could also be like if you're mixing in big batches, a lot of people put up big batches in glass with like an airtight cap. So it could be that the cap on the bigger bottles actually airtight. If you're mixing in a smaller bottle, like a dripper bottle, like don't underestimate how much air gets into your mix from using most dripper bottles. A lot of them are pretty drafty, you know. like that might have something to do with it using a smaller bottle. Like it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, I could totally see how that would seem like a thing, but it also shouldn't. But I can't back it up with anything. It's just random observation.
It's a damn nightmare if you thought you had your mix down and then you made like 5 gallons of it for your vape juice line. But I would like you're probably more right where it has to do with your air sealing. Like, so if you don't realize how often you aerate your little bottles, you know, you're pulling, you're dripping, you're filling, all that time's affecting your flavor. Then you make like 300 mils of it and you've not exposed it to any air the whole time. You're going to be different. You're going to get different variances on things. Let's see.
So basically what we're saying is, eh.
Eh. They like, I watched, what was it called? Molecule Labs tour by Phil Busardo. And they're weighing on these big ass scientific pro scales, you know. So your $40 scale maybe isn't the best way to like measure out large amounts of scientific formulas, you know. Maybe. But yeah, good luck to you.
It's like, no, and I love that question too, because it was prefaced with like, hey, I have a stupid question. It's like, I can guarantee I probably have a stupid answer. So
New Amsterdam did this like super anally retentive steeping study for like to see how a bottle of juice in his car versus a bottle without the lid versus a never open bottle, and like I think like sun steeped like tea or something, and he compared them all like week to week to week. Yeah, I mean, there's people that say syringes are the best way to do your DIY, and like all you gotta do is make a mix once or twice on a scale, and you're like, oh fuck that, you know. And if
that's a fucking epiphany right there. As soon as you get the scale and you're like, oh shit, this doesn't have to take me a half hour to clean up.
Right. Yeah, that one, and then having enough bottles, right? So you don't have to think about how many bottles you have. Like if you have 12 bottles, you don't have enough bottles. But if you have like 50, you're like, fuck it, I'll make another thing, you know. Supplies, have more supplies than you think you're ever going to need. And when you have that, your creativity flows a little better because you're not like, oh shit, I don't want to make this because I'm going to run out of bottles and I want to make this other thing. So
yeah, that's the funny thing about some of those starter kits that you see for sale on sites like Nicotine River and stuff. It's like, okay, we'll give you 30 flavors, but you get 6 bottles. And it's like, what the fuck are you going to do with 6 bottles? Like
fail 5 times and quit.
And then have 6 bottles that have weird smells impregnated them and that ruin all your other mixes. Like, just go ahead and buy more bottles than you think you need. You never have too many little tiny bottles.
Yeah, I picked up like 50 or I think I picked up 100 of those little 30 mil, and the chubby gorilla that just auto cap, and those things. I'll make my girlfriend like 4 or 5 of them at a time, and then it's just faster. It's the wide mouth bottles is helpful too. Yeah, you got a ton.
That is all plastic and varying sizes, and I go through a shit ton of bottles. It's so much easier than having to clean them out. Like, I realize it's wasteful, and I'm probably killing like some sort of small creatures with it, but you know, it just makes everything so much easier not having to worry about like stressing about having clean bottles for shit.
And the wide mouth makes such a difference when you're scale mixing, because if you're trying to get on those stupid chubby gorillas that have the tiny top to them and stuff, and your VG backs up, or you know what I'm saying? So like you go to pour, it'll like the VG won't clear the spout, and it'll just like create a seal. And then as you keep pouring, VG runs down your bottle onto your scale.
Yeah. Yeah, wide mouth plastic bottles are where it's at.
Yeah, so you guys they're just little changes, but they make a huge difference when you're not cleaning up spilled VG after every mix, or it's really fast because you're not having to deal with that extra stuff.
So JFM does bring up a really good point. Why aren't there scales in starter kits? That's an awesome question. More people should put scales in starter kits. I know that isn't Chefs working on like a Chef's branded scale for their own website?
Chefs put up like a ghetto scale that looked a little better than like the traditional US ghetto scale. So it had some features that I was like, well, maybe this would work. Like a simple scale. It totally makes sense. We've brought it up before. The response we got when we pitched it, we were pitching that it should be one of those LB, whatever they are, scales, right? The American Ways scale. And then the response was that the American Ways won't wholesale. So the industry standard scale that we use and recommend, you can't get on a wholesale. So the juice shops, flavor houses and stuff, yeah, the LB 501, they'd have to be buying the scale at cost and then reselling it to you, which makes no sense for them to do. So it's really the American Ways company is ruining your dreams.
Well, I feel like they also just need to label the top of the scale like, sorry, cops, this is absolutely not for drugs. Maybe people would freak out less then. I don't know, because those little drug scales, like for what it's worth for a starter or whatever, if you can get one of those, like they work perfectly fine for smaller batches.
Yeah, so I keep mine like a relic, like it's like a collectible I have because that's where it all started. Because I was relegated to like, this is your new guy hobby zone when I first started. So we're talking about a very simple 10 flavors, little bottle of EG, like that big, little bottle of PG, little bottle of nicotine, and it all had to be on one single 3-level nail rack, and that shit had to go in the cabinet, right?
And then it just starts expanding out from there.
Yeah, and then you start gaining property area. You're like, nah, this is making me money, so I get a desk now.
I've earned this used desk full of flavors. Thank you very much.
$30 this is real money. The E-Juice made this, so we're gonna.
It's an actual check. Now I'm gonna do whatever I want.
And then when you get the wall racks, that's how you know you've made it in the boyfriend husband world. If you can wall rack it, you've carved out your territory.
See, I had to wait until the cat died to get my mixing space because we had an extra bedroom that was the cat's room. So you have a dead cat to thank for this beautiful assemblage of flavors all laid out behind you.
Concrete Rivers Mixing Station is brought to you by Dead Cats.
Rip Quark, you were a great cat, but I do appreciate the extra space.
Spay and neuter your pets. That's an old joke. Half the audience will get it. Oh, man. We're doing it. 55 episodes. Living the dream.
55 episodes, about a minute useful from each one. So we're pushing at least an hour of quality content here.
You just wait and see. This is going to like launch thousands of new mixers in 10 years. It'll be a thing. We'll be like the archives. Like,
yeah, there we go. After they rediscover our tapes after the nuclear holocaust.
Yeah, they're going to be like, how'd they make those vape flavors?
Because vaping is going to be high on the list of rebuilding society, really.
What would be funny is if all the paper burns and all that's left is like a digital version of YouTube servers, and the new civilization has to then piece together what they think's a healthy society through only YouTube.
Oh God, no. No, it's going to be an entire society of people making reaction videos and mugging for their stupid thumbnail pictures.
Nobody asked, but here's what I think about.
Black lesbian midgets react to the Avengers movie. Like, that's where YouTube is right now.
Yeah, yeah, apparently that's getting I haven't seen any, but there's supposed to be spoilers all over Facebook. So like people are just ruining it for their friends.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be like one of those old people complaining, like, no spoilers or whatever. But like, I don't like people all that much, and movie theaters can be a special kind of hell if they're full. So I'm waiting a little while and trying to desperately avoid spoilers. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, nothing's better than an empty movie theater.
Oh dear God, empty movie theaters are the best thing in the world. So like I live basically in the middle of nowhere, but there's a theater in the college town about 20 minutes away. And if you go to the earliest showing, generally the college students haven't waken up from their hangovers yet. So I've seen so many movies in like a mostly empty or completely empty theater with the girlfriend, and it's fantastic.
The first thought you have is like, is this movie that shitty? Like, have I accidentally stumbled into a movie so bad that everyone knows it but me? And then second is like, I can talk and yell and throw popcorn.
And I've still never vaped in a movie theater because I'm not a fucking animal. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I vaped in Space Mountain at Disney only because it was gay day and the gay rainbow couple in front of me that also had a speed pass, he was vaping. And I was like, well, he's going to go down for this because he's like just flagrantly hitting his mod in the middle. Like we're in the middle of the long 20-minute walkway to get to the ride. And he's sitting there vaping. And I was like, well, shit, if he's going to do it, I'll just do it. And then I won't get in trouble for it because he's like more open about it, right? He's just like, I don't care. So I'm just over here like, baby. Fun fact, they have a smoking section at Disney World by Huckleberry Finn section. And it's just like a little rope fence. And then like 50 people smoking cigarettes and vaping. As though like that protects the normal people. Like, there's no, it's a weird double standard. They kiss the pod. Mwah.
I just like how goofy that, like, and I say goofy because, you know, like, honestly, this is the height of cool. But I love the fact that the pod systems are just getting to be weird shaped now. Like, that's just de facto. Like, it's shaped like a fucking sheriff's badge, man.
I know. It shines. It's like, see, look at the shimmer. Isn't that wonderful? This is the only reason that you'd weight a device like this and make it this way is so you can do this. So that you like, oh, I don't have anything. There's nothing in my hands, right? So you can pick up your backpack from school, and then like this, like it is way stealthy. Like that's.
Like, you've just got to go ahead and super glue on like the little pins for a badge so you can literally just wear it around, or like do it like pocket protector style and put like a pen clip on the back end so you can just wear it in like your shirt pockets.
It's literally the perfect size for the coin pocket on the jeans, right? And it's so flat that I won't have awareness that I have it. So where usually you're like, oh, where's my mod? Oh, it's in my pocket right here. This thing, I'll just be like, oh, I don't have it. And then I'll reach in my pocket and it'll be there. So it's very, very convenient for like a, and then I try to hit it backwards too, because that's what the Soaring Air is. So I'll just be like that. And I'm like, that isn't right. This is upside down. But it almost heavy weights this way. So the weight's on the top part. I accidentally bought two of them. I was trying to buy one. and like the cart kept filling up the same thing and resetting, and I checked out. So I have 2 of these things, but I actually like it. I've been using it for like 5 days, and I haven't gone back to the dripper, probably for the nicotine level. I'm like, 25. All right.
Yeah, I kind of like, don't get me wrong, like I don't hate pod systems at all, and I think they're super super useful, but I think I got over the novelty of it after a while, and vaping that much nic salts was making my making me kind of like phlegmy and congested and stuff. So I've tapered back a little bit on my pod system use, but it's still super fucking handy to have around.
Like 100% nicotine salts make you phlegmy. Because if you don't vape it, like you're not phlegming up, you're not getting like back of the throat, I gotta spit. But like the day I switched to nicotine salts, I could clearly notice it come on. And then it becomes like a thing. So it has that effect of cigarettes where you're phlegmed up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the salts or just the level of nicotine, but like it does like kind of give me a little bit of chest tightness. Not like I'm having a heart attack kind of way. It's nothing that dramatic, but I have noticed it makes me feel a little bit more like constricted than just like sub-ohming anything.
Yeah, I think it's a great second device. Instead of owning 2 different mods, get a pod system, get a regular device. When you feel like really vaping up a storm or testing juice, you know, go to the dripper. But if you're like heading to do like family activities, or you're going out to like a festival or a concert or some shit, this thing is legit. You know,
yeah.
I don't support it. I did like it's clearly like a right on the edge of like being a kiddie device. You can see how there's things to it, but a good ID system answers all this bullshit, right? Like this, if you actually are IDing like a pot shop would, like those have been in towns in America for since I can remember, like since the 90s, there were pipe shops, right? They operate because they ID people, you know? So that's where I think the big gap is in the vape industry right now, is on lazy ID standards. And if they fix that, you're going to see a lot of things. You know, you're going to have your aberration where there's always going to be kids smoking in the bathroom. There's always going to be kids that are stealing cigarettes. They'll steal the vape too. But this majority over here can like walk into a vape shop, fucking buy it. That's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to give the man any ideas or whatever. So like obviously this is all satirical. But I think one of the big issues too is if you look at like some Chinese suppliers like Fastech and 3F Vape, you can just order straight from PayPal without any kind of ID or age verification too. So I mean, you can. A lot of the U.S. shops are better about having all their blue check shit and all that other stuff, but like you can still order stuff online if you order from like China without any kind of ID.
Like I was surprised in the big letter that Gottlieb did for the Juul, that like the #1 thing they went after was eBay. I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know you could get those on eBay. You know, but that's.
Yeah, and I think it's technically against eBay's terms of service, but they only fucking they take something down when somebody complains, you know.
Right. So how long have kids been buying Juuls from eBay? You know, so I don't know. I think if they start IDing, see what the thing with the Juul sticker on the 7-Eleven is, the Juul is an independent company, right? So it's. When you get into the beer world, you'll discover that 90% of beer is owned by Budweiser or Miller Coors, right?
Fucking InBev, man. They own everything.
They are a monster. So when you're a restaurant and you order your liquor and beer, there's Budweiser comes in, and that's 90% of the beers you carry. And then there's another company, I can't remember the name, but they have the others. So like they'll have Sierra Nevada or like the weird, I don't even know if they have it anymore. It might be bought by. So like the beer companies are ruthless in how they acquire small brands, right? Like Dogfish, all those things.
Yeah.
Sam Adams is the largest independent brewery after those two, and they've had to like fight for that space in a gas station for years. Tons of money, tons of lobbying, tons of perks and giveaways and all kinds of things go on to keep this independent brewery in the convenience store. Well, now we've had vaping in the convenience store, but it's all been cigarette-owned companies. So like R.J. Reynolds, Altria, they own like the Views and the Blue. I think British American Tobacco owns Blue. So what has been vaping in the gas station has been cigarette vaping. Well, the Juul's not that, and you can see how like they came hard at Juul the last 2 weeks. Like if you're a company and you like Facebook and Juul got the equivalent kind of "we're coming for you" type of attitude from the government over the last month. Because they send these letters of request, right? And that's basically the softest thing they're going to do. And they're like, we want to know how you market, who you market to, what your ingredients are, all these things. And they take whatever you answer, and then they're going to turn around and write regulations against you on anything they don't like. Well, the reason they're coming after Juul, you know, it's in the gas stations. It's an independent vendor. And if you can get one independent vendor, you know, who's to say in like 4 or 5 years, if the vaping industry holds out, you might be able to have the shot of being in like a 7-Eleven, right? Super slim margin, but the fact that Juul got in there, you know, that could disrupt the cigarette biz just by being on a shelf in 7-Eleven, way more than anything we've even done to this point. So our vape shops and our conventions and all this shit that we do, just that one product sitting on the shelf in the convenience store network could change way more people to stop smoking cigarettes. So that's why they're going after the kids and making it like a kid thing. The real data on the kids is that 75% had never heard of a Juul when surveyed of like middle school or high schoolers. And then 95% had never tried a Juul. So like we're talking about 5%, but it's an epidemic. It's sweeping the nation, you know, but the reality is it's penetrating into the cigarette market in a way that we have not been able to with like a smoke device, right? So the fact that you can sit there, you go to buy your cigarettes, you got your Marlboro option, you got your Juul option. Now you're putting money either into big tobacco or money not into big tobacco. So that's a big change, where before you were buying the vape stuff, you're still giving big tobacco money. And there was even like a video that Jim Cramer, who's not ever accurate usually, but once in a while he says something smart.
But he's loud, so it's the same thing.
He's loud. There's no housing crisis. He was very good at telling everyone to hold their Goldman Sachs and like all those stocks that just like death spiraled. He was like, oh, you guys should keep those stocks like weeks before everything crashed. Like
the fundamentals are strong. That's my favorite like investing speak right ever, for like, I'm getting paid by these fuckers. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, for sure. There's these guys in the crypto YouTube world that they started doing stuff like 3 or 4 months ago. Now they have like 80,000 followers. One of the guys had like his YouTube creator page up. Every video is monetized. I'm like, oh, he's got like 30,000 views on things, 80,000 views. I was like, geez. See, a lot of successful people in different markets, they hit a point on YouTube where their success is based on the videos themselves. So whatever you're talking about, you know, that there comes a point where Rip Trippers, it doesn't matter what he puts up as a video, because the views that he's going to get for reviewing like a hat are going to pay him ad money from YouTube, in the thousands of dollars, right? So they stop being reliable, you know, sources for information. There's like a breaking point when you can't really trust somebody who's making $1,000 a video, whether they like the product or not. You know, you watch all these. This is my favorite mouth to lung device at the time. Right now, this is my favorite mouth to lung device. And then like 5 minutes later, you shoot a different video, and you're like, right now, this is my favorite mouth to lung device, right? So they always have that little hidden right now, because they're sold out.
Yeah, it's plausible deniability too, and with how quickly the product cycles refresh, like there's fucking Smock puts out how many products a month? Like there's nothing even vaguely in the way of like long-term testing too. So it's kind of just like, I don't know, with those YouTube vape reviewers, a lot of it's like, hey, this looks pretty cool. Now on to the next thing.
Yeah, there's some poor Chinese guy in testing whose whole job's just to vape the new device, and they like watch to see if he'll blow up. And if he doesn't blow up, goes to market.
Does it kill him immediately? No. Excellent. It's the TFV24. Boom.
Alien 6.7.
Now with more LEDs.
So I started with a Sigeli 150, like metal. And I would drop that thing on a daily note, because I used to have this habit where whatever's in my lap, I would get up with, right? So it would always crash waist high down every time. So like within a day, I dropped that Sigeli like 5 or 6 times, popping the battery panel off, whatever, when it drops. That thing lasted like a year and a half. Then like Smoke Aliens, I will destroy within like 3 months to 6 months. So like when I buy them now, I'm just like, this thing is going to be dead in 6 months if I'm lucky. And just that's how I use the tanks, because, you know, I don't want to pay $200 for any kind of mod device ever. I'd rather buy like 4 of those stupid things and just beat them to hell. You know, I don't want like a $200 box mod printed on a 3D printer.
Yeah, I still don't get 3D printing. Like, I don't want to be a dick, but I don't get 3D printing. I mean, it's fine. It's whatever. Give me something that's actually cast. I like metal. I'm a big guy. I'm fine with something heavy.
I have a feeling that they're gonna figure out how to take 3D printing and like cell writing, like the CRISPR shit, where they can write the DNA. And if you put those together, you can now create whatever the fuck you want, right? So if you can
organically grown mods.
Yeah, like you could have like a vase, and it's building, instead of with this plastic filament, it's building with like atom sludge or like goo, right? It's just like raw atoms, and then it programs them, and then you would have the same vase or the same puppy. Like my girlfriend said, she's like, you could do it with like an animal. But like that's where I think it'll go. But 3D printing plastic is like, it's just one of the components that we use, right? So when we come to the point where we can 3D print, like if you could 3D print a new computer, that'd be cool. Where it's like printing out the circuit boards and everything instead of just the shell. I think down the road, that's where we'll get to. It's like things will 3D print, like the holodeck or whatever it was, the replicator on Star Trek. That's the, you know, where you're like hot cup of tea and the cup shows up with the tea. It made the cup, it made the tea, all that stuff. Like they're right about the tricorder, right? Like the handheld. That's pretty much like an iPhone with the right upgrades nowadays. You can like track all that. I've got my Star Trek communicator right here.
Yeah, there you go. We officially live in the future now. We're vaping on fucking tricorders and shit.
Yep, we're getting there. I don't know. I think cigarette smoking is going to die, no matter how hard the FDA tries to make it a pain in the ass for us. You know, will the cigarette companies be in charge of the future of vaping? I don't know. I think it depends on like 10 people and whether they're sellouts or not. You know, if they can go and like get the big brands to just sell out. Like imagine like RJ Reynolds buys Smoke brand, right? That would be the kind of shit that would put us in a weird place. You know, or like imagine if some prominent DIYer tries a tobacco IQOS and loves it.
I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening. I don't know. Yeah, like those are the options at this point. Like A, vaping either goes under completely, or B, the big money gets into it, and then we're stuck like with fucking closed systems.
Yeah, that's what I think so funny is they're going after the Juul. And it's like, this is your fucking idea. This closed system shit is all FDA stuff. That's where all, you know, this is the tobacco companies working with the FDA to make the Juul. Like they didn't make the product the Juul, but when they did the August 8th regulations and shit, there was this whole secret behind the scenes thing going on with the closed system devices. So that was their idea in the first place. And now it's starting to overtake them. Like they didn't distribute it quick enough. Like Juul just went to market so fast that this is the big tobacco's idea, is to close the system, control the liquid, and then you have to buy the liquid direct from you know, at $15.95 for 4 little pods is what the Juul's going for. Like that'll get you.
Yeah, that will 100% end up fucking you over. I don't know. Like, part of me doesn't want to, like, I was talking a little bit about this before, but, like, I don't want to be the old man yelling at clouds or whatever.
You're totally gonna be, you are 100% going to be old man yelling at clouds.
Yeah, like, I'm trying to adapt to our new pod system overlords. I'm making an attempt, but we'll see if it works out.
Yeah, and if you guys develop for one shots, you should probably be making Nick Salt recipes. That's my advice.
That's I don't know. Like maybe that's the next big wave is actually trying to rejigger some of these one-shot deals to actually work with pod systems, because like people can say like, oh, you can vape it in anything, and they're lying to you, sort of. Because yes, it will technically vape if you mix it right, but yeah, the flavor profiles are completely different. So you either kind of got to get with it or whatever, because just being right has never made anybody any money. You know what I'm saying? Like the market will decide ultimately. So kind of got to get on it or not.
Nikola Tesla was technically right.
Yeah.
Thomas Edison was rich. So. And on that note, thank you all for joining MixLife 55. 55 hours of content. Go back and watch the originals, the old stuff. You can learn stuff. There's some people that have watched all the shows. We appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you immensely. Thank you for joining us.
We don't know what's wrong with you, but keep coming back.
But we like it.
Keep coming back. It'll work if you work it. MixLife. MixLife's new slogan. Hey.
That's pretty catchy. I've never heard that one before.
Never heard that shit. And if you're laughing at that joke, there's something wrong with you. Hey, we had a good time. Keep mixing. Keep, fill out your flavor survey. If you haven't done that shit, send some message that's legible to FDA if you want. Keep doing your thing. Buy our one-shots. We got lots of them now. e-cig Express, Wizard Labs, Chef's Flavors, Mixer Collection available more and more globally every month. So check that out. You guys can order that online, I think, too. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Have a good week.